Okay, now that we've talked about strings, we're going to talk about input and output. All right? We're going to use the scanner class, which is in the util library. What does this allow us to do? It allows us to take in user input. Okay? So, these are what we're going to use. Next int, next double, next boolean, and next line. Okay? Int deals with integers. Doubles deal with doubles. Booleans deal with booleans. This makes sense to us. These two deal with strings. Okay? Next returns basically a word, anything until we reach a white space. Okay, so what's a white space? A tab or a new line or a space. Okay? Next line is going to give us the entire line until we reach a new line. So they basically have to hit enter for return. Okay, so what steps do I take? The first thing I'm going to do is import either one of these, okay? So this or this will work. Then I'm going to declare and construct a scanner object. This is how I do it. I say scanner. You can name in whatever you want. I like to keep it as in, but because it's less to type. So this, you can change to whatever you want. Everything else stays the same. Scanner in becomes new scanner, and this is telling us where is it reading from, system.in. It's not going to change. Okay? What steps are we going to take? So we're going to prompt the user, because otherwise they're not going to know how to enter something. So we're going to say, they're not going to know to enter something. We're going to say, please enter an integer, or please enter something. Okay? And then we're going to call the methods. Next int. We'll save it. We want to make sure to save it in some sort of variable. Okay? And then we're going to call those methods in. Now, and I'm going to save them. Oh, I have two of these. Then, okay, if I use print and not print line for numbers and booleans only, I'm going to call next line to purge the rest of that line. Sometimes it acts weird. This is why it's good to test it. And you'll see it's like just sitting, the cursor's just sitting there waiting. It just means you need to purge the rest of the line so you can write next line. I do it just to be careful because it's not going to do anything if I purge the next line and put it into space. But yeah, so sometimes it just needs you to purge it. So instead of doing this activity, which you can do on your own if you'd like, what we're going to do, I'll leave this here actually. You know what? I'm going to bring it back to here so I can work them side by side. Here we go. I'm going to add to my student class. Now, let's pretend instead of name, I'm going to write, you know what? I'm just going to do, because we don't have yet we do have how to access the space. We haven't practiced it much yet, so I'm going to take in a first name and a last name. Actually, I'm going to have some input, so maybe I'll fill this with input from the user. I'm going to take in a graduation year. Maybe I'll say down here, oh, whoops, graduation year. So I'm fixing my constructors. This is my student class that I used last time, and now I'm going to add here. Well, I'm going to take it in from the user, so I'm not going to add anything here. And you know what? I'm going to take this out here, and I'll also take this in from the user too. So I'll assign an ID num, but I'll take it into as a user. So maybe I'll say, I got to prompt the user first. So system.out.print. Please enter the student's name. And then maybe I'll say name becomes, oh, I forgot to make my scanner. So I have to do it up here. I have to say import java.util.scanner. Okay, and I'm going to create the scanner up here so that I can have access to it for my whole class. All right, so now when I use in dot next line, it'll give me the next line, which is great. Okay, and now I'm going to take in an ID num and a GPA. Okay, we'll also need to take in the year, so maybe I'll say the same thing, only I'll read an int this time. So I'm going to have some issues in my other class because now I have a new, I've added stuff here. I've changed it. So I'm going to change my other class as well. But I want to say graduation year. And then I'll say next int. And then please enter the student's expected graduation year. I don't usually use print lines because I'm going to hit enter and then I'll get a print line after that. Just to purge this, I'm just going to write in dot next line. We'll see when I test it what happens, but usually I need to purge it after reading an int in. Alright, so then maybe down here, we've already learned some methods, so maybe down here I want to have an email. Okay, so I want to say public string, and I want to assign email address. So I think the way yours has it all as one, and they took out the space, but I'm gonna say a student's email is the first letter from their first name, their last name, and their expected graduation year. At sarahhs.com. I'm going to go like this. And that very nicely gave me another comment. Thank you very much. Okay, so I'm going to start with, all right, well, I want to get the first name, so I want to get the first letter. So I'm going to say string first letter, and you don't have to do this in different steps, but I like to do it in different steps. So becomes, so now I have name, where it's already right in my name, so I'm going to write name dot, and maybe the AP prefers to use substring, so I'm going to use substring, but I just want the first one, so I'm going to go 0 to 1, and that'll give me the very first letter. It'll give me the very first letter. And now, maybe I want to find out where the second word starts. So I'm going to scroll up here, and I'm going to look at my string class. So what things from the string class can I use? So maybe I'll use, here we go, index of. I want to find a space. So I'm going to say, it gives you the first index of a given char. If there's more than that after that, it doesn't give you the second one. So just to be clear, it gives you the first index for both of these. So I'm going to say, oh, it returns an integer though. So I got to be careful. Int, and then I'll say last name start becomes name dot, I want the index of whatever the space is, and I'm literally going to put in the space And then I'm going to say +1 because the last name ends after that. Now you can assume, in this case, that a name is typed in first name and last name. Alright, so I have my first name, my last name, then I need their expected graduation date. So it looks like I have everything. So I'm going to say string email becomes first letter, and here I'm concatenating some things together, plus, oh, last name started as an int. So let me get that substring out. I'm going to do it in a different step so you all can see what I'm doing. You don't have to, you can put this all in one, but string last name becomes name dot. Now substring is what's giving me I'm going to take from the middle to the end, and I want to take from to the end, so I'm going to use the first substring, not the second one. So I'm going to say name dot substring, and then last name starts, and that will give me the string from where the last name started. Okay, so I'm going to say name dot substring last name start. So first letter plus last name plus graduation year. And then maybe I'll put plus at sarahhs.com. Okay, so that's my email. And at the very end of this, I'm expecting a string. I haven't returned anything yet, so I want to return that email. Now, up here in my toString, I am going to add also, let's see, I'm going to put a \n here so that all of these are on different lines in the output and we can see them. And then we'll put plus student email, and then we'll put in here, we need to call that method we just made, which was assign email address. Perfect. Now the cool thing about this is, because I called this here in my toString, when I call my toString, it'll do all this stuff for me, and then I'll say, oh, I need to run this method. So it goes over here, and it runs this method. I have this as a public method. I really could put it as private, because I'm only using it in my toString. And since I'm only using it within the class, I only need access within the class. But just in case someone else wants to try calling it, I'll leave it as public. So you can, it's basically choice. So now I'm going to go over here to the main class. And now it's like, oh wait, I don't want Billy and Kelly anymore because you changed the constructor. Here's the constructor. You wanted an ID num and a GPA, which are here. Why are you giving me a name? Because remember, I called this in using input. So I'm going to take these out. And I'm going to just comment out these so that we don't need to look at them right now, because we're only interested in this. Now remember, the toString is automatically called when I type out the reference Billy or the reference Kelly. And in my toString here, I put assign email address. So it's going to do all the work for me. It's going to come in here. It should do it. Let's see if it does it correctly. So let's run this. All right, so I'm going to enter the name. Billy, I don't know, Smith. And his expected graduation date, let's say he graduates in 2021. Now, I'm going to say Kelly. Oh, I'm going to spell her name right. Kelly, I don't know, Robinson. And her expected graduation date, we'll say, is 2023. So let's say, oh, I made my backslashes wrong. Sometimes I do that. But look, B. Smith 2021 at sarahhs.com, K. Robinson 2023 at sarahhs.com. I calculated my stuff correctly, so that's good. I just got to go in here and fix this. And I also read everything in, so you can see. I'll run it again. I'm awful with this. There we go. Because I use comments so much that I forget with my escape sequences. All right. So, let's run it. So it was Billy Smith, and he was 2021. And then Kelly Robinson, and she was 2023. So let's look. Oh, now all their information's pretty nice. Billy Smith, student ID, student GPA. You can see that it read in Billy Smith. It also read in 2021. It saved it here in these instance variables. So it read them in here. ID name became Billy Smith. Okay. And graduation year became the int 2020, whatever the person typed in, 2021. And so when I used them down here, they had actual values to them because they were saved in the instance variables. So, now that we've done an example with this, I wanted to look at multi-line output. This happens to me a lot, where it's really, really long and I can't write it. You just want to put a plus here. See, it's the system.out.print. You just want to put a plus at the end of the line, and it's fine if it's in multi-lines. It'll tell it to pick up at the next line. I'm going to refer to some formatting data, but we don't need to do this, so this is just an extra if you'd like to do it. You can mess around on your computer and just see what happens. So, when we format data, we can align our output to look nice, okay? It's in system, so it's already included in our class. We don't need any imports. And this is the method that we're going to use, okay? We have flags, width, precision, and conversion. Okay, so our flags give us their special properties for whatever type we're passing in. It depends on whatever type you're passing in. The width tells you how long your field is. Precision, it tells us the decimal places, so it'll round. Okay, or it will round, or the number of chars to truncate to. Excuse me. Decimal places round, chars truncate. Okay, and the conversion tells us the type. So if we're formatting S for strings, D for ints, F for doubles. I have no idea why it's SD or D and F for ints and doubles, but that's what it is. So, why do we want flags? Well, let's say you want to give something a positive or a negative. When you print it out, that will do that for you, a plus. Let's say you want to, sometimes when we read budget reports, we have negatives that are enclosed with parentheses. That's what that does for you. If you want to put a comma in there, so it makes it a little more readable, a comma puts a comma. A $sign before a % gives us a $sign for using money, okay? So, field width, it's the number of characters allocated to its field. A minus in front of it prints it out to the left, otherwise it's defaulted to the right. To write a line. Okay, you have to use... if we're using printf, it counts the backslash and the n. It counts that as two different things, so we need to adjust the extra for the extra character. And numeric entries, they don't recognize the special characters, so you have to use an empty print line if you want to go after formatting a number. You can format multiple steps at once if you'd like. So here's an example. This is a great example. We're not going to try this activity, but we'll look at an example. So, let's say I want to print out something that says total, and then there's a sum in there. So we have a double, that's a sum right here. That's what the sum equals. And we want to print it out as money. Okay? This is referring to my string is saying left align, and then it's giving it 10 field width spaces. That's the field width. Okay? And then the S stands for string, so that we know it's a string. That's how I knew it was a string, is because of the S here. Now, this part is giving me the money. So I did this first, and here's my word. So that referred to the first thing in the argument here refers to the word. Now, that is going to refer to sum, which is an amount right here, a double, okay? The F stood for double, okay? This, since it's saying a field width of 10, there's no negative, so it's right aligned. And then you can see there is a $sign here, which is going to give me this $sign here. So that's just an example of how to do multiple things at once. You're welcome to try it. It's not necessary for this class.